Buckle up for another episode of Ghostfacers, a supernatural rewatch podcast. My name is Richard, and sitting shotgun, as always, is my brother in podcasting, Reed.
Click. Hey.
Oh, safety first.
Buckled up. You told me to buckle up.
In this episode, we got a lot of people killing people with guns.
Wow. We've got ghosts. We've got ghosts.
We've got facing people ghosts.
We've got a haunted asylum.
We've got biohazard symbols out of time.
It is a super creepy episode with a lot of fun horror stuff going on.
Some sexy ghosts, too.
No.
We're just a little sassy. I'm a sassy ghost. I don't say boo, I say ooh. Let's go.
Ghostfacers! We face a ghost, when others will not, we're ghosts! Ghostfacers! Stay in the kitchen when the kitchen gets hot! Ghostfacers! We face a nightmare, we face a dread! Ghostfacers! We face a faceless, we face a dead!
Welcome to Ghostfacers! Today we are discussing episode 10, Asylum. Things are about to get a little bit crazy.
Yeah, the Joker has taken over.
Wrong podcast.
Oh God. I'm so sorry.
Before we talk about today's episode, we've got a review.
What?
Yeah.
Yes.
We got to talk about our reviews on this.
Love it. All right, let's have it.
From There's Nobody Here Named Josh. No, it's Richard and Reed.
Yeah.
You're correct. You know what I love about good reviews? Factually accurate.
Yes.
That's
factually accurate, deliberately vague.
They go on to say, this is a podcast. Beautiful.
5 stars.
Oh.
This is definitely something you can listen to.
This was via Apple Podcast Canada.
Okay.
With the subject, Dean Ghostfacers. Love that. 5-star review. They go on to say, can't go wrong with a good reason to go through Supernatural again. Now, watch the show not end at 15 episodes, or I'm assuming they mean seasons, and goes into Simpson territory.
Oh, yeah, we'll just keep going?
Yeah.
So in 7 years, when this podcast ends, we'll just start making up what season 16 episodes would have been and reviewing them?
Well, I mean, that's a lot of what comic books for TV shows become. So yeah, we're kind of like the comic books of Supernatural.
I mean, very much so. Yes.
Yeah. I mean, yeah.
Well, that's awesome. Thank you for the review.
Love that. Not Josh. I'm assuming they also mean there. So wherever they're coming from. No, nobody here.
Yeah.
But also nobody there.
Yeah. The upgrade would be there's nobody anywhere named Josh.
I made sure of it.
Very specific Thanos.
I figured out the solution.
Yeah. There are too many goddamn Joshes.
I don't care what race they are, what religion, what creed, but if they've got the fucking name Josh. Up to no good. This episode, number 10, Asylum, aired November 22nd, 2005.
Right.
Getting close
November
to...
22nd. It's the day after my birthday.
And no one cared.
Hey, listen, back then, I didn't care. What a fool I was.
I hate it.
Now I'm doing a podcast. I spent 15 years fighting it. Like an idiot.
Well, that's the way you do everything else, right? So
yeah, fighting it like an idiot.
Yeah. This episode was written by Richard Hatem. Hatem? I barely know.
Damn it, I knew that was happening, but I was taking a drink of water and I couldn't stop you.
I know, that's why I waited for you to start taking the drink so I could say it. Directed by Guy B.
Like just the letter B? Like McG? Is it like that kind of situation? Or is it like B, like B-A-E? Or no, B-E-A, sorry, not Bay. Guy Bay?
There's actually 2 directors. There's Guy A and Guy B.
Yeah.
This is Guy B-E-E.
Yeah, they each only live half a life. It's like the Prestige.
This is, you know how there's Man Bat? This is Guy B. Buzz.
Nice.
This episode was viewed, wait for it, an estimated 5.38 million viewers.
Oh, back up.
Home help.
Because it was last week, right? That it was like in the low 4s or something?
Yeah. And what I'm assuming was the promos.
So Bugs was bad. The next episode took a hit because of it.
Yeah.
That episode was good again.
Yeah.
And then, or the next episode rather was good again.
Yeah.
And then it brought people back. I'm still not fully sure I understand how that works in terms of if you stop watching a show, why would you jump back in?
My guess is the new people. So it's a combination of hearing a show's bad, so people stop watching it, but then the promos for the next episode.
Right.
Because, I mean, this episode is a very traditionally scary episode, and I can imagine the promos for it being pretty scary looking,
Right.
that it would be like enticing to watch.
Yeah, I guess that's true. That's fair. Yeah.
Seeing clips of like an abandoned asylum with these ghosts everywhere, it seems, I bet that it would have looked pretty cool and interesting and would have gathered some followers. And then the people who watched home, who stuck along for that episode,
Right.
were like, oh, this is great. They're doing a lot more interesting stuff.
Sure,
It's more
yeah.
than just what it seems.
Fair enough, yeah.
So a thing that I love to do is international titles for this episode.
Oh, yeah,
so,
yeah, let's have it.
so we know that this episode was called, when it aired, Asylum,
Okay.
but in Finnish, it was called Refugee,
Oh.
which I don't 100% get.
Yeah, that's not really part of this.
That's just where they put all the refugees are in an insane asylum.
Maybe it's saying something about Finland, yeah.
Oh no. Don't they also have the prisons where you can just like hang out outside and stuff?
Well, I mean, it's not that you just can, it's more that their prisons focus on rehabilitation and things like that. But yes.
God, ugh, that'll never work. The French title, Terror at the Asylum.
That's a good one.
Yeah.
It feels like a very sort of classic kind of horror sort of thing.
Terror l'Asile.
À l'asile.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah, I got it.
I mean, asile as a word in French actually means sanctuary, which is even creepier. The word asylum is meant to be sanctuary, but like they seldom are. Very creepy.
Terror Sanctuary.
Well, because I know that because that's the word that the Hunchback screams in the book.
Oh.
Asile, asile.
But this is l'Asile. I guess it doesn't make a difference because it's
Well,
just...
it's just the.
Yeah. In Italian, it's The Revolt.
Ooh, giving a little bit away.
A bit, yeah. A bit selling the lead, yeah. In Polish, very... German actually was just Asylum.
Asylum, sure.
But this was, in Polish, it's mental hospital.
Wow. That's okay.
Yeah.
I mean, this is the fun thing too with the translations. Not every language has a direct translation for some
Yeah.
words too. So like, that's probably just what they call it. It's the hospital where this happens. Yeah.
Exactly. And the final one, in Hungarian,
Okay.
Pure Insanity.
Whoa. Oh, we got a winner. Hungary, you win this week.
Right?
Pure Insanity. I love that. That sounds like it would be the name of Dean's high school band. If they had stayed in a town long enough for him to form a band, it would have been called Pure Insanity.
100%.
Yeah.
And he'd be the lead singer, of course.
Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah. It would be pure, like P-U-R.
Like the vodka?
Like with the umlaut. So it'd be
yeah.
kind of like Motley Crue.
Pure.
Pure Insanity. Yeah.
Love it. So good. TV Guide's description of this episode is: the brothers investigate an abandoned sanitarium and learn that when it was operational, patients held a revolt. Oh, giving away the lead again.
Thanks, Italian.
Thanks, the language.
Yeah, thanks.
Patients held a revolt against the head doctor, who inflicted cruel and unusual punishments. Tortured spirits drive the brothers insane, and Dean turns against Sam. Well, that's the whole episode. So,
I think we're done here.
Yeah, I think we're done here.
That's actually the TV Guide description.
Yes. Yeah,
They just explain everything.
yeah.
Man, someone really fell asleep at the wheel there.
Well, now people don't have to watch. This is great. That's the point of a TV Guide,
And
right?
yet they did.
Yeah, they did in droves.
In great numbers.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The featured music for this episode. So last episode, we only had one. I mean, we had none. Zero
Yeah,
featured
that's right.
music. It was just sort of ambient.
Just some score stuff. yeah.
Absolutely. So this one, we get one featured soundtrack song.
Okay.
So we're going back up. We got one to this one.
Right.
which is Hey You by Bachman Turner Overdrive,
Whoa.
which comes on when they go into the bar.
Oh, okay.
That's when it happens.
BTO.
Right?
Nice. That's good.
I love
like
it.
that, yeah.
So it's interesting because this week we've got another ghost.
Yeah.
With 2 episodes in a row, we got ghosts. So before we get into our thoughts on today's episode, let's open up Dad's journal and learn about some of the real world lore about today's monster.
Yeah, so let's see what the lore says about haunted asylums. Like you said, we've already talked about ghost lore in some form for 2 previous episodes. We talked about it very vaguely for Dead in the Water, and we talked about poltergeists specifically for last week's episode for Home. And so just a refresher, ghosts, they're generally spirits who stick around because of violent or traumatic or unexpected death. So it's either that it was so unnatural that they died, or they have to get justice, or they don't know they were dead. Like it's something like that has happened.
The Flash is actually a ghost. They get justice from my father.
Every protagonist ever is a ghost. Yeah. So ghosts we talked about are typically tied to places. The exception is that poltergeists are generally considered to be spirits that haunt specific people.
Yes.
So what place houses more potential for trauma, suicide, or other violence?
Ooh, I bet it's in America.
Than an asylum.
Yes.
Mental health, even today, is a relatively new frontier in terms of being taken seriously, being even covered by health insurances, being a thing that like employers even care about. It used to like you're stressed, work through it or get a new job. Like, and that, I mean, we're talking anxiety is like down here on the what a mental health hospital is are dealing with. But it's such a relatively new frontier that even medical like actual physical medicine it was kind of the Wild West until like the 20th century even, so imagine what mental health was. It was even worse. I think for a lot of people that were sent to sanitariums or asylums or things like that, they were discards. They were largely sent there to be forgotten. It's like, let's get you out of society. Let's call it a step better than prison, because technically there are doctors there, but really, like, it's a sentence, right?
Yeah.
There is a long history of many asylums exacting like terrible horrors on their patients.
Totally.
So physical horrors, things like lobotomies, electroshock therapy, forced surgeries, experimental drug cocktails, basically just using these people as guinea pigs.
Yeah.
Psychological horrors, like aggressive and harmful forms of therapy, things that you would never expose a person to, or hopefully wouldn't expose a person to now, but you would do it to like, well, maybe I could just scare them out of being scared, like something stupid like that, right? And then just violent horrors, beatings, suicide, sexual violence, either between inmates because they didn't care to, or inmates, I'm even saying that, between patients because they weren't monitoring them, or, staff against patients because these are vulnerable people and you could take advantage of them and stuff like that. So if we're talking about like a location that could potentially produce ghosts based on our ghost rules, an asylum is like
a hotbed.
Yeah, exactly. So there are some iconic haunted asylums. There's a place in Massachusetts called the Danvers Lunatic Asylum that is supposedly very haunted. There's a couple that I found like fun. I found details about.
Kind of like kooky stuff,
It's so kooky. So the one is called the Lir Sykehus in Norway.
I appreciate your inflection there. Nice.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, maybe we should move to Norway.
You know what? I think you should start doing more accents.
No. So it's supposedly one of the most haunted spots in Norway. This hospital had its reputation, its historical reputation was that it performed chemical and pharmaceutical experimentation on patients, often with cocktails unfit for human trials.
Good Lord.
So things that they were like, we can't test this on people, they would do it. there.
Wow.
Again, just using these people like cattle,
Lab rats,
lab rats, like guinea pigs, really like horrible kind of stuff, because they viewed them as like subhuman or broken humans.
Wow.
So it's like, who are they going to tell?
Wow.
Really awful kind of stuff there. Very, very famous one. The Waverly Hills Sanitarium in Kentucky.
Yes.
Was originally built as a tuberculosis hospital in 1910, and then sort of slowly was converted to an asylum or a sanitarium. It's sort of notorious for tales of mistreatment and experimentation. Apparently, over 63,000 people died there.
Wow.
And they describe bodies being dumped in a death tunnel or a body chute.
Good God.
Yeah. And I mean, 63,000 is not... They're not like putting the TB numbers in there. That's not the tuberculosis. This is like... supposedly, there have been multiple sightings of multiple ghosts. There's 2 ghosts that seem to be tied to... Or the stories tie them to the same room 502. So one is a nurse that hanged herself in that room, and the other is a nurse that like threw herself from that window from the 5th floor.
Yeah.
So there's 2 kind of ghost nurses that are sort of prominent parts of the story. There's one that's like a little boy playing with a ball that wanders the halls and stuff. Of all of the sort of horrible asylums, the places of, these awful tortures and that, the Waverly Hills one is the one that seems to be the nexus of the most like ghost stories, the most like accounts of the paranormal.
Oh, wow.
That one, other ones, they're just like, yeah, a bunch of bad stuff happened there, never seen a ghost.
Yeah.
But that Waverly Hills one is like really wrapped up in ghost lore and stuff. Like there's a lot of people that are convinced that it's like one of the most haunted sanitariums on the planet.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Yeah, pretty wild, eh?
Spooky, too.
Spooky.
We can't do this. This isn't even coming out around
No, it's
Halloween.
coming out in November, I think.
The scariest one.
Yeah.
All right. Well, with that, why don't we jump into the actual episode?
Let's do it. I'm ready.
All right. Let's jump in. I'm just going to skip the recap this time.
What?
We don't need to watch it again. Well, what if something changed?
22 years ago.
Oh, my God.
That night. What they witnessed.
I'll never tell.
Okay. So, the Roosevelt Asylum in Rockford, Illinois. It's kind of funny. They've clearly like not filmed stuff in slow-mo and then slowed it down for some of these like pan shots and that, but we're sort of following this flashlight wandering around the inside of this like abandoned asylum. It's not like full POV, but like we're not seeing who's holding the flashlight.
No, exactly. It's somebody cutting chains. It's
Yeah.
someone holding a flashlight. People walking through doors that have just been suddenly opened. We hear police chatter. Suddenly there's a police officer outside. So clearly police officers are showing up with kids or someone breaking in.
Yeah,
inside.
you assume, they say you can't keep kids out of this place. So, this is probably not the first time they've been called out here, but these kids are in the asylum, and the cops are sort of talking about like, every town's got its stories. Ours is this asylum. It's supposed to be haunted. This is like the local ghost story.
Did you guys have a place like that in your town?
I mean, if we did, I didn't know about it, but I don't think my town was it felt too suburby. Like it did. I don't think I ever thought of it as a place that had enough like history for that.
Because we had an abandoned hospital in our town, and we used to break into it as kids.
There was an abandoned hospital in St. Catharines, but I didn't live out that way until I was an adult. But it was creepy just to drive by.
Did you ever have you ever gone into like an abandoned building?
I have. In Montreal, I would go, abandoned warehouses and stuff like that down in like Griffintown. I would go in, but
we broke into this abandoned hospital, and it was very much like this episode. It was terrifying. Right. What was scarier is that they had left a lot of the stuff still in...
That was true with the one in St. Catharines, too. Like, beds and... Not, like, expensive machines, but machines that you just can't move.
There was machines. There was, like, chemicals and stuff.
Yeah.
I remember we broke into the basement, and we walked in, and there was clearly a fire going on, and, like, smoke was, like, on the ceiling.
Oh, Jesus.
We just kept going in, but...
I mean, it's sort of weird how like insecure that is. You're like, a hospital is full of like sensitive stuff. I mean, obviously they remove files and stuff like that, but like there's still chemicals and shit in there. Like, shouldn't you remove that? And even here, as the cops are going through this abandoned asylum, they find a door that's got like the biohazard symbol on it. And this is the door I think that the chain was on that we saw someone cut earlier. But it's like, maybe did nobody clear this out? Like, there's stuff in this asylum. It's not just an empty building. There are chairs. There's stuff on tables. There's desks. There's like cabinets. It's weird how unabandoned.
Oh, absolutely.
It's only abandoned by people.
So I do have a fun fact about the biohazard sign.
Gotcha.
So in a couple of scenes, you'll show there's shown a door with the sort of internationally recognized biohazard symbol on it.
Yeah.
The symbol was created in 1966 by Dow Chemical, while the asylum is reported to have closed in 1964.
Oh, so this is a little like anachronistic kind of thing.
Exactly, yeah. Some fun fact. But yeah, so
interesting.
we broke into the hospital and police showed up much like this. We didn't get caught.
Right.
We hung out in a dark room and watched them walk by.
Oh, you have told me this before, yeah.
We also we went up to the children's ward where there also was the church.
So creepy.
And there was
so creepy.
There was we walked by this photo that was sort of leaning on those, you know, those side railings inside all of the churches, inside of all the hospitals. So there was a photo that was leaning up against it, and it fell down as we walked by, and it was a photo of Jesus.
Oh Christ!
Yeah, it scared the shit out of us, and we all ran out.
I just realized I said "Oh Christ" too.
Exactly.
So the one cop in this asylum finds these kids that are huddled behind a bench. The other cop is in another room, and a door kind of like slowly creaks open. And so the cop gets the kids to leave. They pull away in their douchey looking yellow car.
Yes.
And then he goes to call for the other cop, and he doesn't get a response.
And so then the other cop just shows up and looking sort of very creepy and sort of robotic, almost acting.
Yeah, he's saying things like, "No, it's fine, nothing in there," and he's got this like sort of like
1,000-yard stare.
He's almost doing like the Kubrick brow kind of thing a little bit. Yeah, he's
wiping his nose.
Weird long wipe of his nose.
Is there blood on there? I don't know.
I can't remember.
But he goes. That same police officer goes home to his wife. And they've been clearly having some like marital issues, it seems like. And she's just like, "Oh, you're ignoring me. You're clearly just still mad at me."
Yeah.
But we know that there's actually something wrong with him. He puts his gun down on the table and she's just like, "What's the deal? Are you just going to be pissed off at me forever? Whatever." And then he just grabs the gun.
Yeah.
And fucking blows her away.
It's pretty fucked up.
It's so fucked up. I can't believe it. It's one of the darker
fucked up
intros.
Because also like minus the fact that the show is supernatural and they were in an asylum, you could just put that on TV and be like, "That's a thing that happens."
I mean, it is.
And
that's
it's
the thing.
Pretty fucked. Like that is not in and of itself supernatural.
They don't even say 100% that that's what that is. We know that that's what
we
it
know
is.
He's possessed because he must be, but like
they don't say it.
Yeah.
So now we're back at a hotel with the boys. Sam has been checking.
Hotel.
Sorry,
it's a motel, baby.
Yes. Holiday Inn. Sam has been checking up on their contacts: Caleb, Jefferson, Pastor Jim, to see if John has been in touch with their dad. Because the previous episode, we had seen a glimpse of him, but the guys didn't. The boys didn't know that their dad has been sort of following along with them.
Yeah.
Sam and Dean are arguing about the dad's whereabouts, and then suddenly Dean receives a text from their dad. Well, they don't know, but there's a text that contains some coordinates.
Again, love sending those coordinates.
Yes.
That's how they found the Wendigo. And so these ones are 42 and minus 89.
So this episode actually establishes that Sam and Dean have been hunting for 6 months together.
Right.
So this has been going on for 6 months.
Yeah.
Sam tells Dean that they should go to the feds regarding their missing dad. The thing is, the federal government rarely, if ever, investigates random missing persons cases. Those cases are investigated at the state level or local level. Since he's pretending to be a federal agent, Sam would need to know that a risk like that would blow his entire cover. Additionally, since their father was likely wanted for a variety of crimes, it would be very unwise for them to go to the federal law enforcement system, as he was discovered, he would be immediately arrested.
And also, isn't Dean also considered dead?
oh
at this
yeah,
point?
absolutely. Poor idea. Yeah.
Because that was from Skin, right? From the Shapeshifter episode.
100%.
Yeah, it's a bad idea for a lot of reasons.
It's not good. What it is funny is this episode is where they first, for Jared especially, starts with the deeper voice.
Oh, really?
This is the
It's this
first
one?
time where the deeper voice, firmer tone. It gets more of the
Yeah.
Yeah, this is the first one that they do it.
Right.
Which comes up especially later on when they do some sort of funny making fun of these episodes.
Yeah.
And that's like a whole thing is the pretending to do this deep voice thing.
That is.
It kind of goes on for the rest of the show, but this is the first one where they sort of it's 6 months in now. It's hardened them just a little bit.
That's right. Yeah. So they find this case of the cop who comes home, shoots his wife, kills himself. I think they know that he was that there's this supposedly haunted asylum in town, so they go it's not necessarily a case, but we should go check it out. And it might also be the coordinates. I can't remember if it also lines up with the coordinates they got from John. But they show up at a bar, and that's where this cop's partner is having a drink, and be like, holy shit, my partner.
Yes. So they talk to the partner basically about the death. And Gunderson, who's the guy that they're talking to, tells them that his partner chased the kids into the south wing of the asylum.
Yeah, the way that they get this guy to talk is Dean goes in and plays an asshole.
Yes.
And then Sam kind of gets him out of the bar and then goes man, that guy's an asshole. And then the cop talks to him. It's one of their...
Yeah, he's respect the police force.
It's one of their grifts. So it's kind of neat to see that.
When Dean enters the bar, he introduces himself as Nigel Tufnell. Nigel Tufnell is a fictional lead guitarist of 1984 mockumentary film This Is Spinal Tap.
Oh, that's funny.
This episode also takes place in a small town called Rockford, Illinois. Rockford is actually not a small town, but in fact the third largest city in Illinois with a population of 352,290.
Oh yeah, that's pretty big.
It's not small.
It's not... That's certainly not how they make this one look.
No, exactly. It's
I mean, you can have quieter parts of a town and stuff, but this looks like a much smaller I mean, that's part of the supernatural aesthetic.
Going
the
to
aesthetic
small
for the show is
towns.
we're not really in St. Louis or although I'm pretty sure they did go to St. Louis. I think that's where Skin took place.
Yes. So funny. So they end up at the asylum now. They're going to go investigate. They've gotten enough information. I believe the coordinates were for the asylum.
Yeah.
And they've had this weird case come out of there. So now they're going to go at least check it out. So they're looking through their dad's journal about it. And they see that two kids, the kids who disappeared, there was two other kids who had disappeared in 1972 from the South Wing as well.
Yeah, 3 kids went in, only one came out. They said that one of the people in there just went crazy and started attacking the rest of them.
Absolutely. So what's interesting is the article of the asylum's death in John's journal is at the first page next to the Wendigo entry. In the scene in the asylum, the article is 1 page after that Wendigo entry. So it's interesting. So they're looking around and they're trying to figure out sort of what the heck's going on. And there's a reference to Sam's ESP, as he likes to call it.
Yeah.
Which he ends up making a joke about. I think he says, "Let me know if you see any dead people." Haley Joel.
Yeah.
Haley Joel starred in the Sixth Sense movie, which played a 9-year-old actor. Haley Joel Osment playing Cole Sear. Cole has psychic abilities and is able to see dead people.
Yes.
And is rather emotionally scarred by this ability.
Yeah, I mean, God, talk about the creepy imagery in this asylum, a baby doll with no head on a surgery tray. All just the cold metal, stirrups and straps and stuff like that, where it's these people definitely lobotomies and stuff at least happening in some of these places. It's all electroshock lobotomies. They're talking about how messed up asylums are, and specifically ones from this sort of older era and stuff like that.
He makes a comment my man Jack in Cuckoo's Nest, which is from One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest from 1975, an American drama film directed by Milos Forman, based on the 1962 novel One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest by Ken Kesey. The film stars Jack Nicholson as Randall Murphy, a new patient of a mental institution.
I think they also reference The Shining.
Oh,
because they're
Shining
talking,
constantly
because we're
comes up.
talking about people going into a place going crazy.
And anytime they could talk about Sam's ability, they bring up The Shining. But now, talking about someone going into this scary place and going crazy,
it's got some layers now.
Yeah, he goes also like my boy Jack in The Shining, which is funny. We've definitely talked about that before.
Yeah, we're getting this conversation here in the asylum where this is another what Dean just wants to do what they're basically he thinks their dad has told them to do. Sam is like, we need to find him. We got to stop distracting ourselves. And Dean is like, Dad gave us an order. And Sam is like, why do we have to follow his orders? It's more like, but we're so different, even though we're brothers.
Yeah. So funny.
I mean, I shouldn't make fun of that. It's a reasonable premise for a show. You have to generate conflict and stuff like that. But
it comes up so often.
It just comes up a lot and relatively heavy-handedly.
Totally. Fun fact about this asylum, the same building was used as the asylum called Riverview Hospital. This hospital was also used in the Grave Encounters film and various other film and TV shows, including X-Files. This can be easily referenced by the distinctive staircase.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah.
So it's just one of those locations that's just like a go-to, like, we need an asylum.
Exactly.
Yeah.
100%. So they decide that they're going to find this connection to this asylum by going to another psychiatrist who's connected to the hospital.
But he's...
There was his grandfather.
Right, yes. That's right. The guy they go to,
it's like his great grandson or something like that.
He's a descendant of the guy that like ran the asylum,
exactly,
or the chief of staff or something like that.
Yeah, they go to James Elcott, it was his father, Sanford Elcott, was the chief of staff at the asylum. Sam poses as a patient and finds out from Dr. Elcott that the South Wing housed the criminally insane. He learns that in 1964, the patients rioted, killing the senior Dr. Ellicott, whose body was never found. What's funny is, whilst waiting for the psychiatrist's office, Sam is seen reading a copy of Men's Health magazine. That issue features an interview with Jared Padalecki.
Does it really?
Yes.
That's funny. It's interesting this is the thing that happens in a bunch of shows in that. Sam goes in posing as a patient, talking to a psychiatrist so he can get info. And then while he's in there, he starts actually talking about stuff. And he's like, it's like, oh my God, I actually need this. Yeah. It's like, and
if there's ever people
I suppose it's appropriate that in an episode centered around like an asylum or mental health or stuff like that we start getting like Sam starting to air his feelings and stuff like that. But he does have to get himself back on track. He keeps trying to push for stuff, and then the psychiatrist is like, you're avoiding the subject.
You clearly have an issue with your brother.
It's like kind of been turned on him. He has to like actually address what this conflict is with Dean about trying to find their dad, all this kind of stuff. Obviously without giving it all away.
What I love is the psychiatrist basically says, for every piece of information you tell me about your brother and you, and I'll give you a piece of the history.
Yeah.
Which I love. I think that's so funny. So finally, as it all gets over, Sam comes back outside. I love Dean's just like, what were you guys even talking about? He's like, just the hospital.
Yeah, he's like, you were there forever. It's like, even just the premise of like, you're going in undercover as a patient, you should expect it to last as long as the session would last.
Well, yeah, I mean, he's not going to let you just like bow out.
But that's Dean, right? He's like, go in. Say you're a patient, just get in the door. Ask the questions. Get out again. Like, he's such a blunt instrument.
It's a thing that they definitely always sort of keep, but this first season he is literally a hammer, and that his dad would have used, and now he's sort of just without guidance.
Yeah.
So it's a really interesting sort of dichotomy with them in this episode, because you're really getting sort of this bubbling up again of this issues between the two of them and their differences.
So they learn about the revolt at the asylum. They couldn't find apparently the body of like the old Dr. Ellicott or whatever, the guy that ran the place, was never found. Apparently a bunch of bodies were. So Dean is like, okay, so we have like unburied, undiscovered bodies and violent deaths. They're like, this is definitely going to be like ghosts, right? Cut back to the asylum, and it's the classic horror trope of like, I don't know why this is a horror trope. This is a terrible date.
Yeah.
It's these two kids, and the guy's like, let's go Like,
but it's like the horror movie thing, right?
But even she says this is a bad date, and he's like, I don't know. In his head, I guess he's like, she'll be so scared we'll make out around all these fucking creepy dolls and shit. Like,
so funny.
I never understood it as a horror trope because there's nothing sexy about it.
No, not at all. I mean, unless you're into mental health issues.
Okay.
Which I'm not. I'm totally not. That's not a thing.
You know what I mean? Like, I would be just as scared. I'd be like, this isn't worth it. Can we go see a movie?
Yeah, it's not great. Yeah, so this is Kat and her boyfriend Gavin. She and the boys are going to eventually sort of come and meet them here at the asylum where they'll discover them, and Kat is basically going to make sure that they help the boys find Gavin, who disappears suddenly.
Yes. You know, again, because they've split up. Why are they splitting up? You're in an abandoned asylum. Like, even if ghosts don't exist, don't split up in an abandoned building.
Well, exactly.
What if a wall comes down? Or like
100%. Yeah.
Don't split up.
No, it's never good in any possible situation.
Such a bad idea.
It's never good. You would think that would be my first thing is go, well, even in every story ever told, splitting up is bad. So let's not do that.
Basically, yeah, exactly.
But, a fun fact that I didn't mention before, so we don't really see the guys in the car at all in this episode.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
There's some scenes with them sort of the cars like behind them in the background.
Right.
Apparently, they had Tom Welling hiding in the back seat of the Impala during shooting some of these scenes.
Oh, really?
Yeah, he was just like hanging out on set.
Oh, weird.
Because Jensen was on Smallville.
Of course.
They were just friends and they all hang out and they all filmed in Vancouver. So they had him just like hanging out and playing around with them, and so he's actually in the back of the truck, or in the back of the car in some of those scenes.
So we see Gavin, and he's in this random room, and he thinks that what's her name, Kat, comes in, but she's all in shadow.
Yeah.
They start making out or whatever, and then she backs up, and you see Gavin like look terrified. You're like, well, it's either like Kat possessed or it's not Kat.
Yeah,
it's a ghost. You just made out with a ghost.
Oh. So, and it's because, especially when you see the ghost.
Can we just take like a quick pause here?
Yeah.
I just have to mention, because we're talking about making out with a ghost. The weirdest part of Ghostbusters was Dan Aykroyd insisting on the ghost blowjob moment. But apparently it was supposed to be a much longer, much more important scene about ghost fucking.
Really?
Because Dan Aykroyd is batshit crazy.
Well, and obsessed with ghosts. And he was like, lots of people have like sexual paranormal experiences. That's why there's that weird scene where he like his eyes roll back and the ghost blows him. Like in Ghostbusters for no reason. I will say that scene's ridiculous, but when they do it in Scary Movie, it's pretty funny.
Oh God. I forgot about this. Oh Christ.
What?
Did you not see what just happened there?
The spinny head thing?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, good. Sorry, I thought maybe this episode was a ghost. Only I was seeing it.
Is that a thing that specifically scared you?
Yeah. There's like a ghost of a patient, and its head is like going all over the place. Like that sort of like fast cut, fast edit thing.
Yeah.
Very creepy.
That specifically scared you?
I think it's about like things with necks and that I find creepy.
Just the potentially of cricking your neck in a way that hurts?
Like it's that sort of unnatural.
Yeah, why don't you try doing it?
I'll crack my own neck, but you know what I mean.
That's very funny. That's a specific thing.
So they've got a video camera out. I think we've seen this in a previous episode. Have we? Using a camera to... They used it to figure out the shapeshifter, I think.
Oh, yes, but I think that's the only time.
Eyes and that. But they're holding the video camera out because some ghosts will register on like a certain setting or stuff like that in recording devices and stuff like that. This is a thing that comes back a lot in this show. So Sam and Dean are using that to try and find the ghosts, and then the ghosts manifest. And then are they using salt or are they using iron here?
So right now iron hasn't been brought into the show yet.
Haven't used iron yet. Okay.
This is the shotgun that was introduced in the previous episode.
That was from the Hook episode?
Yes, from the Hook episode. So 3 episodes ago.
Yeah.
So they had the Hook episode where they created the shotgun shells full of salt. It's a thing that he and his dad developed, I think.
Did they not use iron in the Bloody Mary one?
No.
Oh.
It wasn't iron, no.
Oh, interesting.
This is the thing.
God, it all blends together.
I know,
That's
absolutely.
Wild.
So they find Kat.
Yes.
Separated from Gavin.
Yeah.
And she decides that she's going to help them go and find him.
So she's been like hiding by, like kind of cowered and in like a thing because as we've already seen, there are like many ghosts in this asylum.
Well, yeah.
And it's not just like one or two. There's a lot in there. So
it's chock-a-block ghosts.
Yeah. That's a fun, flirty way to say it.
People were chock-a-block tortured in here.
Oh, right. So, yeah, Dean has this fun sort of conversation with Catherine where he says, have you seen a lot of horror movies? She goes, yeah. And he goes, next time, pay attention. If something is supposed to be haunted, don't go in it.
Yeah.
I almost wanted him to also say, like, why did you split up? like Dean
right?
Dean is a little bit like our mouthpiece, and I think that's a fun thing Supernatural does sometimes is because they work in the paranormal.
100%.
They're like, have you people learned nothing?
There's some truth out there.
Yeah. So Sam finds Gavin, and Gavin says there's this girl, her face was all messed up. Might have kissed her.
I swear, but I didn't like get a boner or nothing.
Yeah. Sam says, did she try to hurt you? And Gavin has to be like, he says she kissed me. It's like, yeah.
So, yeah.
Typical man. Not your fault.
So what a piece of shit.
Yeah. Oh, dude, she kissed me. I'm scarred for life. And Sam's like, this could be much worse. I hunt ghosts.
Which is the thing I think comes up in this episode.
Yeah.
They talk about their job. I think that's coming up in a second, actually.
Yeah. So we're
back with Kat and Dean.
But again, we're split up again.
Not good.
Sam and Gavin are one.
Dean and
group.
Sam can't separate because they know what the hell they're doing.
I don't think we should.
We got a son of a bitch.
Yeah, Dean says son of a bitch.
I don't know if that's come up already that many times.
He must have said that already. Oh, yeah. And then Kat says, you're hurting my arm. And Dean's like, what are you talking about? And they realize it's not Dean holding her arm. She gets pulled into another room, and it's a door that Dean can't open. So a ghost has got her.
The door that Dean can't open is the one to his heart.
Yeah, is the one, to other people.
Yeah. So Kat's stuck inside of this room. And clearly a ghost is in there. She hasn't looked backward yet because she's just trying to get through the door, and then she realizes, oh wait, something brought me in here.
Yeah.
Which is a terrifying moment, I think.
Yeah, because it's not like the thing keeps hanging on to her, right? Like it's not like she gets pulled into the room and the thing is still holding on. It's that now she's just in a room by herself, but she knows she was pulled in there, and she knows that this door won't open, and it's then we finally see this ghost behind her.
Who looks like he's at the bar in Star Wars.
Yeah, I don't like you. My friend doesn't like you either.
He looks just like that
he
guy.
Does a little bit. But there's multiple ghosts in there. She's getting thrown around a little bit. Sam and Gavin have shown up by this point. They're trying to get in, and Sam is saying like, no, like they're not all violent.
Yeah.
One kissed your boyfriend. You got to look at the ghost. They're trying to tell you something.
Some of them are like,
It'd be funny if Sam was like, some of them are kind of saucy.
Yeah. Some of the ghosts are like, ooh.
But he tells her, like, you have to face them. They're trying to tell you something.
They haven't tried to hurt you, so they must be trying to help.
Yeah.
Which I'm like, there's a lot of space between helping and hurting.
I mean, there is, but, I mean, they can't get into this room. You got to try something.
Yeah. So why don't you just, like, give in to the ghost?
Do you know what? I think this is beyond our pay grade. Just give up. Succumb.
Yep. Succumb. Resistance is futile.
Door opens, and there's like a moment where you're like, is she possessed?
Because she's looking all weird, but then she acts completely normal after that. And she says 137.
It whispered in my ear, 137. So they decide they got to look for a room number. We know that something else is going on here. Sam and Dean are like, they're not all hurting people. So what are they trying to tell us? We know from previously as audience that like there's a bunch of bodies undiscovered. So it's like maybe that's where it's leading.
Yeah, exactly.
They're splitting up again, which you shouldn't do. Dean tells Sam to get the kids out of there. Dean's going to go look for room 137 because he's a loner and a badass. And I'm going to listen to Dad even if you won't.
I'm going to listen to Daddy.
No.
My name's Dean. I'm going to listen to Daddy.
That's like the fanfic
Yeah.
version. Yeah.
Come on, Sam. Let's go get Daddy.
Good Lord.
So I love this scene. So they're walking around just trying to figure shit out. Sam, Kat, and Gavin.
Right.
And they basically, Kat goes, so how did you get into like hunting ghosts? And Sam's like, well, I had a bad guidance counselor, which is a very funny thing.
It's funny. Yeah.
And they're like, so this is your job? And he's like, yeah. And she's like, so he's like, Dean, your boss?
Yeah, which is a fun. No,
No. No one's our boss. I'm an independent. My daddy's my boss.
no. So Dean finds room 137. He goes in. It's like full of papers, and it's got that creepy like surgery tarp kind of thing that you see. And Sam and Gavin and Kat can't get out. All of the doors are locked. They're not able to get out. He says
all
they
the
can't,
windows
they can't
are
break
barred,
a window because again, this is
an asylum.
You're not supposed to get out, right? So they are dealing with that. Dean is in, I'd say, the creepiest room ever.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. You don't want to be in the...
There's like There's empty wheelchairs.
Yeah, every time you see anytime there's a car parked, anytime there's a wheelchair unused, they're abandoned.
It's that Mulaney bit where he's like, you see a wheelchair like tipped over, and you hope a miracle happened. Yeah. Yeah, so Dean finds this like patient's journal. It's full of these like diagrams of like surgery tools and stuff like that, scratch marks, a bunch of like shit in there. We're starting very slowly to piece together that like a bunch of these patients were probably like operated on in ways that were not okay or good. Why all work and no play? Again, another Shining reference there.
This show loves referencing The Shining.
Probably more than any other horror property.
100%. It's in the last like 8 episodes, it's referenced it at least like 5 or 6 times. Like it's kind of crazy how much they love it.
Yeah. Yeah, Sam says, we're not going to panic. And then Gavin says, why the hell not? Which is very funny.
So, I mean, it's a fair thing.
Dean says, I'm in the basement. Hurry. Sam says, can either of you handle a shotgun? It's like,
Gavin's like, no.
These fucking high schoolers are like, here.
But I love it because Gavin's like, no. And Kat's like, yeah, I do. And Gavin's like, who even are you?
I do like that.
I think it's great they gave her the like she was the one who has the ability. That it's like
she's also the smart one that was like, this is a bad date. I don't like this. Gavin, you suck.
I like when horror stuff, it like gives good things to people who don't do stupid shit.
Yes. Yeah, you should always reward people that aren't dumb. Yes.
I think that's fair. So we see that biohazard sign?
Yeah. So
out
Sam
of time period.
Sam goes in there.
After it was abandoned, they went in and then put it in.
Yeah, they were like, hey, there was probably some stuff in there. We have this symbol now, should we?
I mean, it's probably still biohazardous.
It would be irresponsible for us not to go into this abandoned building and put this new symbol on the door.
Hey, Johnny, I know that we're here in Rockford and we've got these new symbols to be able to use. We went to all the other hospitals.
I have to move 50 symbols or my boss will have my head. Where can we put these?
Oh, I got a great idea. You know that asylum, the abandoned one? Yeah, that one. There's definitely going to be some hazardous stuff in there.
Listen, as long as I don't have to bring any of these symbols home to my wife.
Oh, I bring some symbols home to my wife and all I hear is, you never move no symbols. You get that new job with that fancy radioactive biohazard symbols and you never move them. Your children are going to go hungry. You got to place these symbols in places and your boss is going to fire you.
Far too long of a bit.
We put biohazard symbols in our bathrooms, and after you use the bathroom, it's definitely a biohazard situation, isn't it right, Johnny?
Wow.
The baby's got whole outfits you've made out of biohazard stickers. So that's how it ended up in the hospital.
While those biohazard guys were talking about it and arguing about it, flash forward 50 years to Sam. He's in there. He's looking for Dean. He's like moving tarps and shit around, and he turns around and a ghost like grabs him by the face, and it's like
electrocutes.
It's like kind of electrocuting him. And it looks like the the Vulcan mind meld position a little bit.
A little bit, and we also are now apparently introducing that ghosts have elemental abilities, which I don't think ever comes
it's
back.
Not full on like electricity, but he's like, he's doing something to Sam that. Yeah, I think you're right. I don't know if that ever comes back.
It doesn't ever come back, I'm pretty sure.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, Dean rounds a corner. Cat shoots at him with the rock salt.
We get a son of a... But no bitch.
Some
Because
classic...
he's not going to call a girl a bitch.
Classic Dean.
He's a gentleman.
Sure. All gentlemen eat at Hooters.
That's what it says above their sign, I thought.
Oh, right. So Dean comes and he says, "Where's Sam?" And they go, "He went to the basement to look for you. He got a phone call. He said it was you." And Dean's like, bitch.
He's a regular Jesse Plemons, or not Jesse, from
Jesse Pinkman?
Pinkman, yeah.
Yeah. Bitch. Mr. White. Are you down here?
God, he was such a bad actor that first season. He really got great by the end, but he was so terrible by the in the beginning of that show.
I think you can make the argument for these guys too. So Dean finds Sam. Something is clearly wrong with Sam.
Yeah.
We know it. It's the way he's standing.
He's just being a little bit off.
He's just saying, like, I think something lured me here. Like, he's being very kind of standoffish, the way that cop was in the beginning. So we know that Sam is, if not possessed, he's being affected, controlled, manipulated.
In some way, things are sort of affecting him.
So Dean talks about what he discovered about
these rage therapies,
extreme rage therapy. He thought if he could get his patients to vent their anger, they'd be cured of it. So that's what happened, to the cop, right? That he had his like anger unlocked and stuff like that. The patients became so angry they went homicidal. Dean's like, we got to find these bones, and then Sam is getting very standoffish. He's like, we're not going to find the bones, and it starts this like argument between them. Yeah,
which is interesting because this basically leans into the first real fight where they were actually going after each other. So
this the first?
This is the first
proper because I know the pilot we get like the sort of like the martial artsy kind of fight of them in the dark.
Yeah, and in Skin, it's a replica of him, so it's not technically him.
Right.
But this one sort of, you can see Sam's getting more and more angry. He's just like, that's why it's called it hidden, you idiot. Like, he's getting so angry, and he's finally just like, what? He's like, why don't you tell me what to do?
Yeah. Dean hears, does he hear like air or something? He finds like a hidden room like behind a wall.
And Sam's nose starts bleeding.
And he's got he's pointed a gun at Dean.
And he's just like, I'm tired of you telling me like orders. And
it's that thing where it's like, these are actual things that Sam like, this is not just someone talking in Sam's body. These are actual things he feels, actual frustrations he has, but they're being amplified in a way that like Sam doesn't necessarily feel this strongly about it.
And he's like, what are you going to shoot me with rock salt? That's not going to kill me. And he goes, no, but it's going to hurt you like hell as he shoots him. So
I remember the first instance I ever saw like in pop culture of like people being shot with rock salt. And I was like, oh, you could shoot people with something that doesn't immediately kill them, was Kill Bill.
Oh yeah,
I think it's either the first one where Bud, or maybe the second one. Bud shoots her with rock salt.
Do you remember the first time you found out that the way shotguns work is it's not just like big bullets, that it's spraying?
Well,
shit?
yeah, because I kind of grew up on like Arnie movies.
Yeah.
And that, so someone gets shot with a shotgun, like a big chunk of them is gone.
Exactly.
Yeah, I guess I would have been older when I realized there was a bunch of tiny pellets.
And something about that is just way worse, I think.
Yeah.
It feels like, oh god, it's just ripping through you with all of these little bits of pieces rather than something.
Yeah, it's not just like a 90 cal.
Yes. It's so funny. But yeah, so Dean gets knocked out, waits back up, and Sam's even more pissed than he was before.
Yeah, Dean is kind of doing the thing where it's like, well, then why don't you just shoot me then? Go for it. Like, he's sort of trusting that Sam can, like, override it. He says, like, do you hate me that much? And you can see Sam is kind of fighting it. This is some good, like, we're family, we're brothers.
But Sam still ends up pulling the trigger.
He sure does.
But Dean didn't give him a gun with bullets in it.
Yeah.
Because as much as he trusts him, he doesn't know how
I mean,
much
you
this
see
is
the struggle.
affected.
You know that Sam wouldn't have done it, but this thing that has happened to him is strong enough to override that. So it's kind of like a crazy moment there where he does pull the trigger.
So, and then Dean eventually knocks Sam out.
Wow. That's the first proper
Yeah.
Sam and Dean fight.
They're actually, I mean,
Actually them
Yeah.
actually fighting.
exactly, which is kind of crazy, right? But they've gone at each other in a few different ways, but this is the first time where it's been them and anger fueled and an actual physical fight. So Dean's back in a terrifying room now.
I mean, there's no room but it's all like the gray stained tiles. It's like clearly an operating room. Yeah, you see like ghosts walk by the front of the camera.
Yeah.
Which actually, that's a really good effect. Normally, you'd see them way in the background.
Yeah.
But having something pass directly in front of
It's
the camera
frightening.
is way scarier.
Yeah, because you're just like, oh my god.
Because you can see it so clearly and like he isn't reacting. And you're like, Dean! Like,
it's right there.
That's a really like effective move. And I'm not sure if I've ever seen that before.
I don't know either, actually. I mean, I'm sure something has used it, but yeah. So Dean ends up seeing something coming out of a corner of a cabinet. And
Yeah,
so
it's like hair or something.
Yeah, so he opens the door and he sees what I think is it Dr.
I think it's the doctor's body.
Yes.
Like the doctor that was experimenting on them. So this is part of the, like, all of these other ghosts are still there because his ghost is still there. That's the ghost that attacked Sam and stuff like that. That's the one that is amplifying the anger in people. He shows up to do it. This ghost actually talks. He says, "I'm going to make you all better." He's doing the electricity thing to Dean. So the reason the other ghosts are still there is because their unfinished business is dealing with the spirit of this doctor that they revolted against.
Yes.
That was hurting them, that was experimenting on them.
Dean throws the lighter and it hits the body of the doctor.
Yeah.
Who then burns up.
Yeah, burns the bones. It's neat. The effect they use in this one is different from future ones where you see the ghost kind of burn like paper, like turn black and sort of stuff like that. Whereas in later ones, they'll do like full burst into flame kind of combustion thing. But again, we're still kind of finding what the visual language is, I think, at this point.
So this is really funny. If you see right here, suddenly he's next to Sam with the body's burned. So so he burns the Ellicott's body deeper in the sanctuary, but after the body actually collapses of the spirit body, suddenly the original body and Dean are all laying next to Sam.
Yeah, stuff happens. You got to frame the shot.
Also, when Dean's lighting his lighter, it goes out, but then some minutes later they flash back and it's still on. So that's a funny moment too. I always like pointing out those things.
They finally get out. Those other ghosts can go to rest because the doctor is gone. They get out. Dean says, like, no more asylums, right? Sam is saying that he remembers everything that happened.
Yeah.
He's like,
but
it's like I couldn't control it.
Which is what's interesting is that they basically are just leaving now. They don't search for the other missing bodies, and they leave the patient spirits to continue haunting, which is something they don't normally do.
It's funny that you bring that up because it's not until much later in the show that they start wrestling with the which things do we kill and which things do we not. It is weird that they leave that alone. Because it becomes a plot point later, but they're just doing it.
Because the whole point is that they hunt things and save people. There's still a bunch of things in there that are going to continue haunting that building.
Yeah, it's true. Sam says, should we talk about this? Dean says, I'm not really in a sharing and caring mood, which is basically a paraphrase of him saying no chick flick moments.
Yes.
They move along. We see them like in the motel or whatever.
Yeah.
Sam gets a call, sits bolt upright and says,
Daddy?
No.
Hello, Daddy.
Much different episode ending.
Ooh, wake and shine and rise and shine, Daddy.
Jesus Christ. You're in such a weird mood. And that's the end of the episode.
Wow. It's such a bottle episode. You don't even get inside the car once.
You don't see them driving. It's not, it's And really, other than they show up, they get a little bit of like history before they get to the asylum, and otherwise we've seen other people in the asylum and them, and that's you're right, it's essentially a bottle episode.
There's very few scenes, there's very few places they go,
which production wise is probably one of those ones where it's like,
it's a dream
we
episode.
could save a bunch of money in this episode. We only have like 5 characters and 1 location.
Well, and the guys are separated, so they probably each get like a day off they don't normally get.
Yeah.
This is probably a dream to shoot this episode.
Yeah, like from a production standpoint, you need to pepper things like this into your season just to keep people happy.
There's not
to make sure you have budget for the bigger things you want to do later.
There's not a ton of crazy visual effects either.
No, there's not, because I mean, there's not a lot of ghost effects. We saw the like neck guy was one thing.
Yeah.
Have a little bit of lightning effect, but even like the ghost burning up, it's not the full flame thing. Like, there's not a ton of stuff that way.
It's pretty impressive considering, I think.
Like one sort of set of like, kind of squib sort of things for, the rock salt shot at the wall.
Yeah.
But there's not really a ton of that stuff happening.
And we saved...
That being said, it's probably still one of the more suspenseful and one of the more interesting kind of character episodes too. I think we've talked about it a bit. Some of these episodes haven't balanced those things very well. This one does a pretty good job of it both being like, Sam and Dean are different. Where's the friction point? And also being like, oh, fuck a ghost.
Well, with that, why don't you just give your review for this?
I might as well. Like I say, I think they do a pretty solid job of balancing those two things that do not normally, at least at this point in the show, blend especially well.
Totally.
The idea of an asylum just on its own, it's great to have it as that bottle episode because it's the scariest place ever. We've been talking about it. There's like surgery implements and metal tables and stained tile and torn sheets and creepy dolls and you know that bad things were happening there because you know that these people were treated horribly. They were not given help. They were used as, they're basically used as like medical practice. Yeah. Like, so all of that's very creepy. You get the thing where it's like, you're supposed to be on edge and then you're like, oh wait, but some ghosts are good. It's like, are these ghosts like being messed around by the other ghost? And you're like, it's like a super ghost kind of like there's some layers to it there. Plus, weirdly, other than Sam and the cop, no one else gets possessed.
Yeah.
Or I mean, no one gets possessed at all, but no one else has that thing happen to them with the anger thing. But at the show at every turn, it's like, you haven't seen this character for a little bit.
Yeah.
Are they? So like you distrust everyone the whole time, which is really clever.
Haven't really seen that since Skin, which is it's always a fun ploy.
Yeah. It's right. It's a different mechanism, but the same idea of like, but are you
exactly?
Like, I like this one. I mean, I do make fun of the Sam Dean thing. Like I want to listen to Dad. I don't like Dad. We don't get along. Like all that kind of shit. Like I make fun of that, but it's in there and it still works. It drives them as characters.
Totally.
I enjoyed this, but I don't think it hits as much as, especially last week's episode, because that was a real, like, that's an emotion one.
Yeah.
I think it's good. I would give this, I'm going to give this 4 lightning fingers.
Okay.
Yeah.
Nice. Wow. Wow.
What?
Wow.
Oh, yeah. Good.
I think that the framework for this being the asylum is great. The filmmaking is great. It's never going to be as good as I would say the first episode's filmmaking. Like
right.
They really fall into this sort of like tropey thing with horror that it works from like a scaring standpoint, but I find that you're losing some of the sort of filmmaking aspects of it that I really liked in sort of the first couple episodes.
Right.
But that being said, I think that very sort of low budget, you get some really great scary stuff. It's not trying to go over the top with special effects and stuff like that. You're accomplishing a lot of good, solid fear, especially the first time you watched this. I knew what was going to happen. I knew the real thing behind this. I would say that the main villain of this, not really scary at all. I think that...
No, I mean, the idea of him, I think, is scarier than he actually
Exactly.
is. The idea of like a doctor performing surgery on you that you don't want or something.
And I think that
you know?
later, in a later season, they do a better job with that type of thing.
Yes,
But-
definitely.
Because I don't think they 100% nailed it with this one. But I like the action's good. You hate Gavin, which is great. You like Kat a lot. Kat actually shows up, I think, as a different character in a later season.
Yeah.
Which they don't acknowledge, but
Oh, yeah. There's a couple of actors that do that, yeah.
or like come back as different characters for sure. I mean, you get that in even like Star Trek and stuff like that.
I just realized, just before you finish your final thoughts, I just realized there's no closure at all for that cop in the bar.
No.
They never go back and be like,
hey, it's not so bad. This was actually ghosts.
or something. Like, it's just
or he
like,
comes and saves them, or
there's no closure for him. It's just like, and moving on.
hey, he blows his brains out later on.
Yeah, like he might.
Yeah.
You know, like, yeah. I just thought about that.
And and they leave all the ghosts in there. Like,
Sam and Dean are driving away like, yep, tied it up with a nice little bow.
everybody lived happily ever after. But, I mean, you're getting sort of this great... Finally, Sam's talking about his feelings towards Dean, which is good.
And of course, Sam is more willing to do that too. It's a good episode to reinforce that.
Yeah, I feel like this is a solid middling episode. I will give it 3.5 out of time radioactive hazard symbols.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Are we doing different ones?
Yeah, why not?
Oh, okay. Nice. 3.5. You sure you only want to take 3.5 of these things? I got a lot of these.
I got mouths to feed.
I got a lot of these symbols, and we're going around to a bunch of buildings that were built before we had this symbol.
We're also going to places like schools. We put them outside school doors. And
I've been putting them over water fountains.
I saw this precious baby, and I wrapped it in a hazard symbol.
Listen, I'm just paid per symbol I put up. Doesn't matter where.
Yep. Doesn't matter if they ask for it or if they scream at me to stop. I'm still going to do it.
Jesus.
It's the way I live my life.
Good God. So messed up.
It's crazy that we also got this time machine so we were able to do this completely at a time. Not only are we going to abandoned buildings, we're actually going to them when they were still around and putting on those buildings. I can't think of a better use for time travel.
I mean, I gotta say, the overhead of this company I work for must be astronomical.
It's crazy because they developed the technology for time travel literally just to move more
I'm not
symbols.
invoicing anybody. I'm just putting them up, and then there's money in my account.
Yep. I assume there's a direct correlation, but who knows?
Yeah, I think it would be good to put those gentlemen to rest.
Yeah, why not? Well, that's it for this week. If you have maybe a note about this episode, something we missed, or we'd love to talk about maybe something that you're noticing about a next episode that we're going to do, send us some information about something that you may have noticed, something funny, something that you really liked about that episode. Maybe ask us a question about a future episode or the way we feel about it, or just about the show in general.
Or just like, yeah, let us know what you think about the show. We just love chatting.
Yeah, so you can do that through our email.
It's ghostfacerspodcast@gmail.com.
We're also all over social media, all the main places you want to go, and we got one handle.
That's right. It's Ghostfacerspod, whether you're on Facebook, Twitter, or Instagram. So hit us up.
So that is it for this week. Say goodbye, bitch.
Jerk.
Fuck. I can't get it. Why? The words are in front of me. I wrote it down.
Listen, I'll be the dean if you want.
No, we know that's not possible. Say goodbye, bitch.
Jerk.
This was a Brain Freeze podcast.